It's news time. The news teams of Fakti, STB, and Viknazet TV, along with Tetiana Vysotska, are working for you. Welcome. The Russians have advanced in 3 regions at once. Analysts from the Deep State Resource have recorded changes along the front line. According to their data, the enemy made gains in Vovchansk and its surroundings, and in Donetsk region, the front line shifted in favor of the enemy near Serebryanka. The invaders are attacking around Sievierodonetsk there. The occupiers achieved successes near Dakhne, pressing at the border of Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk regions. Meanwhile, the defense forces are gradually stabilizing the situation in the Huliaipole direction. According to analysts from the Deep State Resource, the Southern Operational Command has established communication between units. Because due to a lack of coordination between brigades, we almost lost Huliaipole. Analysts emphasize that the command has redeployed the 225th Separate Assault Regiment here, and another brigade has been sent to this section of the front to establish a defensive line in front of Huliaipole. Because during the loss of Poltavka and Uspenivka, some units left one of the flanks exposed and the Russians managed to infiltrate our rear. Due to unauthorized withdrawal and chaos, there were incidents of friendly fire. Another 5 soldiers were captured by the Russians. Enemy saboteurs in the rear also shot 4 of our drone operators. Currently, deep state analysts claim that the situation is gradually stabilizing. At the same time, the enemy has advanced near Rivnopilia. According to the General Staff, the day before, in the Huliaipole direction, the defense forces repelled about 24 attacks. They cover our infantry in the Pokrovsk direction, and it is extremely rare to capture their combat work on film. This is due to the proximity of the enemy and the constant hunt for the multi-ton vehicles. We're talking about tanks and tank crews, specifically the soldiers of the 32nd Separate Mechanized Brigade. Our war correspondent Yehor Romaklo managed to visit a firing position and find out how this armored equipment is currently being used. On one of the most difficult sectors of the front. During the report, you'll see a QR code and a card number that you can use to support the 32nd Brigade Tank Crew's fundraiser for pickup trucks. Join in.
Right now, they're putting up a net to make it safer. It follows our engineers around. Well done.
The Pokrovsk direction greets us with a fiery dawn. Although this beauty is overshadowed by the danger nearby, this time we got a rare chance to witness firsthand the work of Ukrainian tank crews, the soldiers of the 32nd Separate Mechanized Brigade. However, the route is not an easy one. We have to leave the car behind and continue on foot across fields that are already covered with frost in the morning. Everything reminds us that winter is approaching. We didn't immediately realize that we had already reached the position. This is the current reality of war, the real situation. The use of tanks on the front line. It's very hard to tell that there's a tank behind you because it's camouflaged as much as possible since the enemy is actively searching for them. And tanks are used like this, from concealed positions, firing like artillery. Camouflage is a matter of survival. After all, the enemy is less than 5 kilometers away. And now this is a full-fledged kill zone, as they call it. That's why the soldiers have to work very quickly. Right now, there's a planned target. Another 125mm shell to add to that.
That's it, just like camouflage.
Now we need to quickly camouflage ourselves and move away from the tank because the enemy could have spotted the shot from the sky. Fortunately, not this time. And now we can talk to the crew, in particular with the commander of this vehicle, whose call sign is Poltava. The man started out in the infantry but then got the chance to switch to armor. He says that tanks in 2022 and now are 2 completely different combat units.
This, let's say, is like a sniper rifle. At the moment, most are using close positions because with the latest technologies, FPV drones are flying around and can take you out on the approach. But if you're in a close position, have a good crew, stay camouflaged and hold your ground, then we work perfectly.
Now, from close positions, tanks are firing at distances of over 10 kilometers. They strike infantry, Russian fortifications, and sometimes equipment. Of course, there are also missions where they go out into the field. However, that's an incredible risk, which they try to reduce through modifications.
We use electronic warfare tools, including camouflage, anti-drone defenses, and we adapt to the situation, conducting combat operations in the current conditions of modern warfare.
On the way back, a vivid reminder that the enemy uses an enormous number of drones in this direction was our encounter with a Russian Molnya. But while you can still hide from drones under a net or protect yourself with electronic warfare, the enemy has another extremely dangerous means of attack. This is what a crater from a guided aerial bomb looks like. The Russians drop hundreds of them on Donetsk region every day. And here you can even see a wing from a cab still left behind. It's with the help of these wings that they maneuver. With this kind of weapon, the Russians are destroying everything here, logistical routes, civilian buildings, and they're also striking at the positions of our defenders. But despite this, they continue to hold the defense firmly. In particular, the soldiers of the 32nd who are fighting on the right flank of the Pokrovsk direction.
We really try not to let the enemy enter the settlement at all, because absolutely
we still have more than one position there, quite a lot. We've basically been holding our ground since we first came in. Our guys are such pros now in firefights, they practically kill the enemy, then hide the bodies so the next group coming through doesn't see the dead there.
But ahead of us, more Russian assaults mean more work for the tanks. But without well-organized logistics, there won't be any work done. You have to deliver ammunition, spare parts, and food. Most often pickups are used for this.
The engine got hit, and that was it. The hood was blown off.
In the past month alone, the unit has lost 4 such vehicles, says the commander of the tank company, Viking. All of this is the work of Russian FPV drones. Now, the tank crew has launched a fundraiser for a new pickup, which, like everything at the front, was needed yesterday. So join in. The QR code and card number are on the screen. Reporting from Donetsk region, Yehor Romaklo, Dmytro Matvienko, and Serhiy Marchenko. Fact ICTV. United News.
As a result of a Russian attack in the Dnipropetrovsk region, a man was killed and a woman was injured. The enemy struck Pokrovsk community in Sinelnikivsky district with a KRB bomb. The body of the deceased was pulled from the rubble of a destroyed house last night. The occupiers also shelled the district with drones. In the Petropavlivska and Slovianska communities, 2 private homes were damaged. A car and a gas pipeline were also damaged, according to the Dnipropetrovsk Regional Military Administration. The aggressor also terrorized Nikopol, attacking the city with FPV drones. In the 3 months since young men aged 18 to 22 were allowed to travel abroad, more than 120,000 young men have crossed through Polish border checkpoints alone. Polish border guards note that one person could have crossed the border several times and thus be counted multiple times in these statistics. In addition, 59,000 young men returned to Ukraine. However, the number of those wishing to leave has increased almost 2.5 times compared to September. The sharp influx of Ukrainian male refugees has caused a negative reaction in Berlin and Warsaw. Kristina Velichanska looked into the issue.
Artem is 18. He is a third-year student at Shevchenko University. He dreams of becoming a diplomat, and when he was finishing school, he, like most minors, faced a choice. Whether to go abroad or stay, the security issue did not scare him.
I understood that this is exactly what I want to do, and accordingly, I was ready to stay here for it.
Thanks to the student exchange program, a year ago, Artem had the opportunity to go for an internship in Sweden for as long as 6 months. However, even then, among the group of Ukrainian students, no one ever thought about leaving and not coming back.
Everyone understood perfectly well that the program works in such a way that we have certain obligations. If we want to continue our education, this is exactly the procedure we need. And personally, I don't know of any cases of people who stayed there, unfortunately or fortunately.
Even now, with the borders open, he says there is no mass exodus among those around him. From
our university, no one has dropped out, no one has left to study elsewhere, everyone has stayed exactly where they were. And for them, the opening of the borders is more of an opportunity to go on vacation with friends than to abandon what they're doing entirely.
Meanwhile, Polish border guards report that in the 3 months since the borders were opened, 121,000 young men aged 18 to 22 have crossed their checkpoints. However, a little less than half of them, 59,000, have returned back. Among those who have recently crossed the border is Volodymyr, the son of my colleague, correspondent Tetiana Dociak from Kharkiv, who enrolled in a Polish university before he turned 18.
It was partly related to safety because, of course, it is safer in Poland. My main goal was to study in Poland at a university that interested me.
In Poland, there is no remote learning, no air raid alerts, and you can focus on your studies. But for 2 years, Volodymyr couldn't come home.
If they had spent a long time living abroad and couldn't come home to see how Ukraine lives here, to witness our volunteer movement, to read our news, I don't know, to live under these attacks, otherwise they would have forgotten Ukraine. And most likely, they definitely wouldn't have come back here because by then they would have grown up.
Tetiana is certain that a significant outflow of young people actually happened not now, but a year ago, when in Kharkiv, as in many other cities, parents were taking their 17-year-old sons out by bus. And that was a bigger problem than it is now.
How can we encourage them to return to Ukraine if we don't let them in?
At the Center for Economic Strategy, they say that the labor market will not suffer major losses. According to data from the Institute of Demography, there are at most 700,000 men aged 18 to 22 living in Ukraine. Most of them are studying and less than half are working. The opinions of the military regarding the possible outflow of potential mobilization resources are also not so categorical. This is evidenced by recently conducted surveys.
Most military personnel, to sum up this research in a word, were indifferent regarding the youth because they see citizens aged 18 to 22 as the generation they are actually fighting for. To put it even more simply, children were allowed to go abroad, so what's the big deal?
Personally, I don't see a catastrophe in this. I even see an opportunity for Ukraine because people who went abroad to study, in my experience, many of them plan to come back. And after their studies, to work and help rebuild Ukraine. So,
Personally speaking, in my opinion, this is truly a huge opportunity for the country of Ukraine.
The main thing now is for the state to work on ensuring that young men don't seek a better life abroad, don't take the places of forced migrants who truly need shelter in European countries, and don't forget that defending the country. In a few years, this will already be their responsibility, and with such a neighbor, we must always be prepared for war. Kristina Volochanska, Fact 10 by Marathon, United News.
the National Anti-Corruption Bureau, together with the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, is conducting searches at the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine. This was reported on NABU's Telegram channel. The investigative actions are authorized and are being carried out as part of the investigation. Further details will be provided in the announcement. Let me remind you, according to media reports, the head of the President's office, Andriy Yermak, is mentioned in NABU tapes regarding corruption in the energy sector. Almost all power units of Ukrainian nuclear power plants are operating at full capacity, said Rafael Grossi, head of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Electricity production at the three Ukrainian nuclear power plants, Khmelnytsky, Rivne and South Ukraine, has practically returned to normal. It was also possible to restore all high-voltage power lines that had been damaged as a result of Russian attacks, Grossi noted. The IAEA plans to send special teams to several substations that are crucial for Ukraine's nuclear safety. After all, it is necessary to assess the latest damage and its potential impact on the operation of the nuclear power plants. Kyiv football club Dynamo has dismissed head coach Oleksandr Shovkovskyi after a defeat in the Conference League. The day before, the capital's team lost 0-2 to Cyprus's Omonia. In the previous 3 rounds of the Conference League, Dynamo earned only 3 points. Because of this, both the coach and the coaching staff were suspended from their duties. Igor Kostyuk, the coach of Dynamo Under-19, has been appointed as the interim head coach of Kyiv Dynamo. That's all for now. See you in 15 minutes.